what was it like working on that show, and what was the writing process like? Because it seems, just from a viewer's perspective, that much of it was sort of off the cuff. And so understanding what sort of it was like to write and direct on a project like that.
I love that show because like I've always said, like I was the first fan of Kenny versus Spenny. And it's like I got to watch every episode people get to see 22 minutes. I got to watch 3 days of that. And so like each episode represents this much to me. Like I've got like this much in my head about it. And it was a big blur too, but it was definitely the most fun I've ever had on a set where it was true cowboy fucking guerrilla. Like we did shit you just can't do. And it's like, and I know there's some like rude shit we did and some controversial stuff we did that's like, I've got mixed feelings about, but like it's in terms of the spirit of like uh no limits, blue humor is embraced. Um Production would say you're not allowed to smoke weed and turn their backs on us like symbolically, like I know you're smoking weed, but I've said what I've had to say and now you're just going to do whatever the fuck you're going to do and I'm not liable anymore. That happened lots of times. So it was fun to do. The crew, we loved it. There's definitely, it's not like it was all fun and games and laughter. It was also tough. I think creatively, I mean, as we all know, Kenny and Spenny had, some creative differences that would spill out onto a shoot day, or we'd have to stop shooting and they'd get into an argument, and that was never pleasant for the crew to be around. So I was always, I don't even know if they're fully aware of how much I kept people's spirits up in that show and kept them feeling seen and valuable. Because when you have two guys that are so focused on creating a kick-ass show, so focused on the competition, they're not being the crew's not being managed. They're not like saying, "Hey man, you doing good?" or "Sorry, I fucking kicked a vase over and it almost hit you." Like there's none of that. So I always tried my best to buffer those things, which happened often. Um, so there's that part of it. And yeah, it was fun. I did like 88 episodes or whatever it is. Shot every single one. Again, no bad idea. Like again, Kenny, I learned with Kenny often, like to get an idea into him, I have to throw it at him in the moment rather than like tell him a month in advance because he would just he really wanted to be spontaneous and real. So like that really honed my improv chops of like go, go, go. And I love working with someone like he's the best in terms of like when you have somebody who's almost like an avatar of I hate being I don't like being on camera. I'm a silly motherfucker. I was a class clown. You would never know that meeting me. Oh, maybe you would. Depends how well we get to know each other. But having someone there that I can say the craziest shit, that I would never say on camera, maybe not around like most people, that I could throw that shit out and Kenny would do it and say it because he's like, I'll just try anything. Was so great for me. Yes, there was a while where it was like, he's using my jokes, yada, yada, yada. But it's like you're a writer. You're fucking coming up with content for it to live, immortally live on a show that's that great versus never exist. What would you rather have? Like to me, it's a gift and it's an honor. And it's like my pleasure to have contributed what I have. And I don't give a shit if people don't know my dick looks like Freddy Krueger is my job. Like whatever. Like I don't give a fuck. He owned it. He owned it better than I could ever own it. So it's his. God bless. Now, as far as the scripted aspect goes, or the writing goes, we my best comparison is like, when I learned this in film school, whatever, when you're making it, let's say you're making a documentary about uh, um, hummingbirds, and you have to you go to a funder and you're saying, I'm going to do this documentary about hummingbirds. You're going to say, well, what are you going to do? We're going to shoot for 3 years. Well, what are you going to do for 3 years? Here's a check. That would never happen. You need to go in with a plan. We're going to go to fucking Argentina and we're going to go to this place and we're going to film the mating rituals that happen here. Like you have to plan out at least a rough sketch of what you're going to do because you're getting money and they want to know what the fuck you're doing with the money. They want to know the broadcaster wants to flag anything like, which has happened with like, there's no way in hell that you can shoot that. Um, and also like you need the production office. We had our own little production office in the back we're going to need three Leathermen. We're going to need a synagogue. We're going to need we're going to the island. That needs to be coordinated. We need to do that on day two. Spenny, we need all the crew shooting with Spenny on day one. We need all the crews, we need to plan this shit out. We need to know what Kenny's going to wear for his t-shirt. We need to come up with humiliation ideas that are going to get approved by the broadcaster that then may evolve on the day or whatever. But like, so that was a big part that I was involved with. And there's even story beats. It's like, okay, we got Melvin. Kenny's going to be Melvin on a scooter. What's Melvin going to do? Well, fuck, stand around talk? No. How about we go through a drive-through? How about, whatever. And like, you come up with things for the guys to do. So at least there's a bit of a framework. And that was never a tried and true method. Like I would say from episode to episode, that would be either this much or this much, because more often than not on the day, everything was out the window, everything. And it drove me crazy sometimes. I'm like, oh, I love this idea. I really want to go to this strip club and shoot this sequence here. And then Kenny would kill it and be like, well, we're going to do this instead, for better or for worse. Sometimes he was 100% right. Sometimes it's like, I think it might have been better. But that was kind of part of what was exciting about the show, is that you really didn't know what was going to happen or what the results were going to be. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of my experience of doing the show in terms of being a writer on Kenny versus Spenny,
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds like that really that sort of back and forth that you had in terms of like pitching jokes and giving Kenny lines, and like that really fine-tuned your ability to improvise, and that's really served you across your career in a lot of different ways. I'm curious about the specifically though, like I understand that there is an outline sort of that you guys would build in terms of like, oh, maybe we'll go here, maybe we'll do this, maybe this will be the idea. But in terms of like the sort of diabolical plots that Kenny would come up with, were those written? And if so, wouldn't Spenny have been tipped off to some of those? Like, I feel like it was so real, at least in terms of how it was perceived. Like, I fully believe that Spenny had no clue that a lot of this stuff was going to happen. So I'm just trying to understand like the writing of that piece. Was that like kept secret, or how did that stuff work?
The guys did prefer to work independently in terms of preparing for a season. And like my role sometimes I'd bounce, I'd work with one of the guys or work with other the guys. Not so much, it would never be like, this is what Kenny's doing, this is what Spenny doing. It's more like, what can I do? Right. And there was a willing ignorance, especially on Spenny's part, where like I think Spenny's a competent actor. Like I think he can pull it off, but his approach to doing the show was not acting. It was basically like almost this Kaufman-esque, like embracing the circumstances and just fucking going for it. Like he was true method. Like for him, his North Star, I think, was just do the work. Like this is the comp, do everything I can to achieve this, to achieve the win in the most honorable way possible, or sometimes he would deviate from that, but also with the mind for comedy. I mean, the guy, like the guys are comedy writers. They've written comedies before. Spenny is like is caught up. He'd get in the moment. Maybe he'd have these freak out and break shit, whatever. He knew the show was funny. He knew that him being dedicated to what he was doing was funny, and he would lean into that. And sure, maybe sometimes he was like, you could tell, he's talking to his desk and he's saying something, and he say that it's like, okay, it's serious, but he's obviously trying to be a little bit funny. We are making it an entertaining show. So like, but I know this through and through. Like Spenny's MO was pure, like the more ignorant he was, the better. If he knew something was happening, it would fuck it up. It would like, it's like there's no way he could like pretend to like not know something. Like he just isn't, he's just not wired that way to begin with. So like, I think he would get upset if he found out something, or Kenny would get upset. And if Kenny knew Spenny knew something, because it did happen, he would not do it. Like Kenny's not that kind of person.
Right.
Even like in his day to day, like even today, right now, Kenny is not the kind of person to fulfill someone's expectation. If you were to say, I want to film something with you and I want you to do this, he'd be like, yeah, but what about this? Like he's a real like how can we make this better? How can we change this? And he's definitely like whether it's ego or creative instincts or whatever, if Spenny knew something that he was going to do, he was like, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to fulfill your expectations. Fuck you.
Right.
I'm different. So, I mean, I would say in the dynamic of the show and the way it worked was Kenny was definitely, he was the one who I think was more trying to mastermind the these sort of sidebars and these funny vignettes, these moments, and like the gags and the props and like stuff with the production office be involved in the production office a lot. Whereas Spenny would need these things too, but it was way more, I think, dedicated to the actual comp, and that was the secret sauce, right? It's that polar op, like two different approaches to the same problem.
Mhm.
That polarization is like the creative genius of Kenny versus Spenny and what makes it work. Um, and like you have some comps where it's like I'm trying to think of examples here. Like who's a better actor, where they wrote scripts and they did plays and whatever it was they did, and they really had no idea what the other guy was doing. I think Kenny knew Spenny was doing some like fucking Louis the 14th bullshit or whatever, and Spenny knew that Kenny was going to do some Holocaust jokes or whatever it was. But there's that kind of thing versus like who do old people like better? Like Spenny had no idea Kenny was going to have a guy with Down syndrome pretend to be his brother. The old people had no idea. They didn't know who this guy was. They didn't know it was real or not. They were taking it at face value. Like was that scripted? Of course not. Like it's like that was as raw as you can imagine. It's but in 88 episodes, like I said, there was some where, we would fuck around a little bit and try and do something funny, like with Kenny, versus like truly like just pure verite, barely a plan of what we are going to do and how we're going to do it. And really discovering the moment, which is interesting because like if you took those same episodes and put them in a different season or a different week, even they might have wound up completely different, you know?
Yeah, and sometimes you find lightning in a bottle, and I think you guys did that with Kenny versus Spenny on a lot of episodes. I mean, they were just such the perfect foils to one another. That's why, to me, I think that's why the show worked. And then even the crew sort of became characters in some episodes. Sometimes you guys would judge things or, be featured on camera and stuff. And so that was a really cool. It really made it feel like you were part of the show, in a way that like a lot of crews don't get to be. So I think that was really cool and really enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, that was key. The crew is key. I mean, it's funny when people recognize me from the show, I'm shocked because I was always the one filming the crew, even the other camera guys. I think because they were like more we always had different guys every season, it seemed, but they were more like, oh, I got to stay focused on Spenny, right? Where I was like, okay, these are key moments, and you've got these incredible personalities like Brendan or Jamie or Donnie, Brian, Kevin, where you're just, or even Doug, or older sound guy, it's like
Yeah.
getting those reactions and reminding people of like we're witnessing this fucking chaotic friendship, like and to me that's also like the realism too, where it's like this is real, man. We're fucking like we're all experiencing this moment of fucking crazy shit in real time, that none of it, like the fart episode, like that's like a discovery moment, right? And there's the crew reacting, and it's like, oh, that was scripted. Like, come on, are you kidding me? Like, that was the best thing. Those moments are the greatest.
Yeah, I
Like,
remember watching. I mean, I've seen all the episodes, but I watched the octopus episode with a few friends of mine, and there was pretty strong disbelief around the fact that Spenny was actually given acid. And I don't know if he was or not, but to me, I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's so believable. If he wasn't given acid, and that's just him acting, that he deserves an Oscar for that.
I was there when it happened, and I was there when Spenny knew shit had gone down. Was it what the fuck happened? What did you do to me? It's like you are tripping balls on LSD. It's like so when you watch the episode, that conversation is cut out. That and him going, okay, I'm fucking gonna ride this. You know what I mean? Because you watch, you go, well, how would he not be like, what the fuck? Like, Spenny knew, as fucked up as he was, that like he needed to stay dedicated to the moment. And he was so fucked up. I think, like, right after he realized he was fucked up on acid, because that's the thing you watch, you're like, oh, well, how would he, whatever. It's like he knew he was fucked up on acid. So if you know that, you're like, okay, great. What people don't know as well, it's like I think right after he started tripping balls, he's like, he gets all like, I've got a great idea. I'm gonna take off. And like, wouldn't it be funny if I disappeared and nobody knew where I went and like you had to find me? It's like, no, 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 no. You're not going fucking anywhere. Like, first of all, it's a liability. Second of all, we have to shoot a fucking show. Like he had to be wrangled and forced to be kept in. Like in our the live tour right now, Kenny talks a bit about that, where he had to keep Spenny, we had to keep him engaged and locked in because like we had to show to shoot and it was an incredible opportunity. But what people don't realize is like obviously Spenny knew he was fucked up. And obviously you would process, I don't know if you ever done acid before, but you're also thinking, okay, like I'm high as a fucking kite and this is wild and surreal and you're gonna ride the moment. You know what I mean? He went for it, you know? Did he fucking dance like a hippie because he actually felt that way or because he thought it might be funny? I don't know.
Right.
Fucking tripping balls. I know that. I know he shot himself in the rain and was rolling around. Like
Yeah,
he
I mean, there's no way to at least for me, I was like, this is 100% real. Like, there was no way this wasn't real.
Why
The
wouldn't it be? Like it's funny. Like I don't know if any like it's funny. These are people who've never done drugs before. And like they don't understand is Kenny Spenny come from a generation of like you did acid on weekends. Like this wasn't just like some people now is like, ooh, acid. Like I don't even know how I could buy it or where I could get it. It's like if it's part of like Kenny was a full-fledged drug dealer throughout like his teens and 20s. This is like accessible stuff. It's normal. Like people Kenny came out of my dad's house once tripping balls and ass with a friend of his in his teens. You know, like this is the culture these guys grew up with. Like it was so almost normal.
as much as there was like constant controversy and tension and like this competitive spirit between these two guys, and I know it veered into territories where it was like gross or weird or whatever, and but the nice thing that I find about the show is that there's little moments that you can find in the show if you really watch the episodes where you can tell that these two guys actually like care about each other. And it was like those little moments really like tied it together for me in a way that was like um that made all the humiliations and tortures and things that they put each other through kind of feel validated in a way. I mean, one that comes to mind is when Kenny locks Spenny in the I think he tricks him into thinking it's like a boxing room, and he like locks him in and goes off to Niagara Falls for the weekend or whatever and just leaves him in there. And but then he feels so bad, he like rushes back and gets him out and stuff. And it's like you can tell that he felt really bad and that he cared about him, and but at the same time he still makes him do the humiliation. So it's like this really fun relationship between these two guys that I don't think ever can be replicated, and it's really cool that you got to be a part of that.
When you see like the formats that were shot internationally, that is always something that's missing. You know, it really is. And I think Elton versus Simon in Germany did okay. There was Eddie versus Spencer in the UK, which I think it maybe came the closest to that dynamic. Whereas I think in Turkey, they just filmed it frame by frame exactly what we did. But it's funny, I think it was like the Colombian one where this is a few seasons in, and I love what you were saying about their friendship because there's a moment where the Kenny guy jumps on a treadmill with this Spenny guy, and this Spenny guy pushes him off, but they laugh. They both laugh. And it made me realize in that moment that that was something that the show was getting away from. Like what's at stake? The friendship's at stake. Like the mask became the face in a way. Like I think the show truly, and they'll agree to this. I think it truly kind of like damaged the friendship for a while because when you're competing against somebody and shit talking them constantly, eventually that just becomes your reality, even off camera. And it's like moments that they did connect, I always loved. Like the weed smoking episode was a great return to form because they fucking connected and it was great. And it is truthful. And that's how I see them today, even like they're really good friends. And like having that at stake in the background and the periphery of the KVS competition, I think was key. Rather than just like, I hate your fucking guts and I wish you were dead and I wish I wasn't even doing the show with you type of vibes. You know what I mean? Like it sucked to be around, but it also like I think it affected content in not the best way sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it tied it together for me because it was like there's a little bit of heart in there in between all the chaos and madness.